Z Business Plus makes managing fuel easy. It's fee-free with choice benefits like 8 cents off every litre, every day, everywhere you need us. Sign up today for the 2022 CanStar Blue Best Small Business Fuel Card. Z is for New Zealand. T's and C's apply.
Time to return to the FIFA World Cup. We have 16 teams left as of this morning, with the group stages finishing up. So 16 are going home or have gone home. 16 remain in the round of 16. How many times can I say 16 in the space of 20 seconds? Starts tomorrow morning, 4 a.m. The Netherlands against the USA before Australia and Argentina. Joining me to discuss more, our Football World Cup panel today, Sean Hogan from Wellington, Newstalk ZB. He is the host of the Football podcast today. And David Chote, former All-White, joining us this afternoon. Good afternoon, boys. Thanks for your time.
Good afternoon.
Well, we have our last 16. Sean, I'll start with you. Do we have the best 16 teams left in this competition?
Oh, I guess you have to say so. I mean, they've all managed to get there on their own merits. We've had some big names fall in the likes of Germany, and I think you just have to say that with the craziness of this tournament and what it's produced and the time of year and the time frame they have to play these games, I think this was always going to be an open World Cup. So I think the fact that that's reflective in some of the names that have made it to this last 16 shows that they deserve to be there.
Chote, is it the same for you? Do you think that, if you're in the last 16, you deserve to be there, or are there teams that perhaps may not deserve to be in that last 16?
Oh, there'll be teams that have squeaked through. There's no doubt about that for me. But there are good sides who have missed out. Denmark, a top 10 side. They were a side that were fancied coming in. We've already talked about Germany. They were clearly a side that people thought could go deep in this competition. Uruguay, perhaps another one that's a big name that's missed out. And you've allowed, I suppose, the biggest minnow of all, Aussie, through. They won't consider themselves to be lucky, but if you'd lined them up before the group started and said that they'll go through with France, I think you would have got a few dollars on that.
Chote, how would you rate the quality of football that we've seen over the last fortnight in the group stages? Has it been quality?
There's been some cracking games. Having watched a hell of a lot of them, there's been excitement, lots of goals late on, not a lot of sendings off, not a lot of matches that have really ground to too much of a halt. There has been flowing football throughout. So, I've enjoyed it so far. It gets a bit interesting now because now it becomes don't lose as opposed to you must win. So I wonder how it goes from here on in. But, halfway through the tournament or into the knockout phase, I've really enjoyed the football, and there's been some surprise teams for me. The Japanese living on no ball at all, but able to hit you on the counter-attack with two big scalps, Argentina and Germany. They've been a surprise package as well.
Sean, how would you rate the first couple of weeks in terms of footballing quality?
Football's been brilliant. I mean, as Chote said, we've just delved up some results, the likes of Japan beating both Spain and Germany. It's just been amazing to watch and so good for some of these sides that, we don't hear of very often and we don't get to see play, actually having a chance to show what they've got on the world stage. And with the compact schedule and the fact that we're playing this in the middle of a season, it goes to show that it's anybody's game and anybody can win based on if they put out a good performance on the day. And we're into knockout football now. And as we know, as we've seen in the group stages, anything can happen in just one match.
Chote, what's going to linger for you from the group stages? Is it that VAR call in the Japan game, the line ball? Is it out? Is it not? Is that going to be the main memory you take away from these group stages?
I hope not, because that's talking about off-the-field stuff. For me, the Richarlison goal, I love the acrobatics of the Brazilian centre-forward goal, the bicycle overhead. That was a highlight for me. Free kicks haven't loomed large, but one or two of those will linger long in the memory. But for me, I think because it's so close to home, I've loved the Aussie story. I sort of became an honorary Aussie in the last week or two, so Aussie, oi, oi, oi. Getting them out of the group. They're the lowest ranked side in terms of the FIFA rankings to go into knockout play. So that's been the David and Goliath story that I've enjoyed the most.
Yeah, Sean, looking at that, Australia out of the Asian Confederation, South Korea advancing this morning, Japan yesterday morning. So 3 teams from Asia through to the last 16. Do we take much out of that? Is it down to their preparation, or is it just the quality of football they've put on the park?
I think it's amazing to see. I mean, especially the likes of Australia. I sort of came into the tournament not particularly wanting them to do too well. I actually called them to be one of the worst sides in the tournament. But I think when you look at it, and you look at it from a perspective of the A-League and New Zealand football, I think it's a good chunk of that Australian squad origins came from the A-League. So it's only a good thing that players from that league, which the Wellington Phoenix play in and some of our Kiwi stars play in, is going to get a fair bit more attention with some of these players like Matthew Leckie putting out performances that end up winning them games against big sides and putting them into the tournament. On some of the other teams like Japan and South Korea, you can't hate but love some of those you can't help but love some of those sides. They play a brand of football that may not be appeal to everyone, but they get the job done. And I don't know, when you see the smiles of the South Korean fans this morning in that upset, and just what it means to them as Asian sides who come from big countries that don't necessarily all the time produce the best players in the world, to see them footing it with the best and able to hold on to wins and come back from being goals down to win games, it really puts a bit of a smile on your face.
Indeed it does. Chote, look, this is the last year of the 32-team comp. As it stands, they're going to 48, but pools of 3 or groups of 3 next time. How big a loss would it be in 2026 not having the drama we've seen over the last 8 days or so as they try and figure out, who qualifies? I think the last week has been magnificent with all sorts of twists and turns. How big a loss would it be for you if we don't have that come 2026?
Yeah, it's huge for me. You don't want to have a tournament that creates sort of a procession to the final. This World Cup has shown you that every group has been alive literally to the last kick of the games in the third round. It's been hugely exciting, and it's just made it a tournament that you can't keep your eyes off. I've thoroughly enjoyed this style or the structure of the tournament that leaves you with a simultaneous game on the last day of the round that everyone was live in. Watching the groups change minute by minute. At one stage, we had 2 sides being knocked out. The next minute, you've got another 2 coming in. It was fantastic. I really like the structure that we've got at the moment. It's been hugely exciting.
Yeah, Sean, do you think that the FIFA's got to go back to the drawing board here and figure out another way to have pools of 4, longer tournament maybe, but surely pools of 3 isn't going to work in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, good luck to the person working out who goes through. I mean, we've had enough trouble with 32 teams. If they expand it out, it's going to be a bit of a headache for anybody trying to crunch those numbers. But I think in a way it does dilute the tournament. I think even saying that as a New Zealand fan, if New Zealand gets that automatic spot into the World Cup, it sort of becomes a little less meaningful. And, the idea of us being on the world stage, it just becomes the norm. And I guess that is good for the development of our players, getting increased more match time, but it takes away a bit of that meaning from making a World Cup. And I think it's just going to end up being impossible to watch and try and understand what's going on.
Sean, there's been plenty of discussion in the lead up to the tournament around Qatar and around the human rights situation and protests and everything like that. Have you been successful in, I guess, putting it to the back of your mind in terms of watching this football and basically decompartmentalising what we're seeing out on the park, or does the Qatar thing still weigh on the mind?
I think it's hard not to. I mean, as a journalist primarily, you can't help but be aware of these things. When the ball hits the back of the net in the 90th minute to send a team into the World Cup knockout stages for the first time in their history, you can't help but get wrapped up in that moment and celebrate with it. But afterwards, you have to just sort of check yourself a little bit and go, all right, who wants to be known as the team who wins the Qatar 2022 World Cup with all the background from it? Do teams want to celebrate that? I'm not too sure.
Yeah, for you, Chote, I guess that you look at it and it's faded away over the last week or so, but there was plenty of discussion beforehand. Have you been sort of able to just, watch the footy and not worry about, perhaps the other things that have dominated the build-up?
Yeah, focused on the on-field performances, but you can't help but be impacted every time you see Infantino on the screen. I think there is an intake of breath and generally a murmur in the crowd to say that there's a disapproval of FIFA and the way they've run their their business. Look, there's no question that FIFA are a dodgy outfit. But when you see the Japanese fans or the Korean fans this morning crying in the stands because of the pride that's welling up in them because of their nation's performance on the field, I can sort of get myself to focus on that without ever trying to condone the horrific existence that some of the people have been put through in Qatar.
Indeed. Finally, gentlemen, Sean, who are you backing to win from here, and has that changed since day one, a fortnight or so ago?
I think it has. I think, initially after those first round of matches when we saw Argentina get toppled by Saudi Arabia in just one of the upsets of that group stage, you thought potentially the pressure was too much, but I can't help but just get behind the fact that this is Lionel Messi, the world's greatest player, in my opinion, don't at me, World Cup, and I think he's managed to corral that team together and he's got the magic to be able to take them through. I'm sorry, Australia, you will be going out tomorrow morning, touch wood, but I think it's his World Cup and I'd love him to take it there, and I think they've got the talent around him to be able to move that majestic maestro through to the last trophy on his list.
Chote, for you, who wins from here, and has that changed since the start of the tournament a couple of weeks back?
Probably not for me. It's pre-tournament. It was Brazil, Argentina was where I was headed in terms of favouritism. I think they loom large on the same side of the draw, so they come through on one side of the draw. On the other side of the draw, it's England-France for me. So England-Brazil final, Argentina-France final, or a mix of that would be perfect for me. I think that England and France, that match is critical as that looms as possible semi-final. And then into the finals, I'll go with my favourite side, Brazil, who this morning I reckon played their B outfit.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time on our panel this afternoon. That's our FIFA World Cup panel. Sean Hogan and David Chote. Sean hosting our Football Fever podcast, the Newstalk ZB football podcast every day through this World Cup. You can find it where all good podcasts are located.
The Football World Cup's the biggest sporting event in the world, and you can keep up with the play with me, Jason Pine, and my good mate and former All-White David Chote on Football Fever. Listen daily throughout the World Cup as we bring you all the action from Qatar. Chote and I love football. We can't wait for the World Cup to get underway. So join us as we live through all the goals, all the drama, all the glory. Download Football Fever from iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts.